Okay, one more video for you guys. Half angle formulas. I did double angles. You see that posted up. Half angle formulas. You must know them still. You're going to have to memorize them. It's all on you at this point. All right. You see sine 1/2 theta and cosine 1/2 theta are almost exactly alike, except for sine you subtract under the radical, for cosine you add. Now you see that plus or minus out front. That's dictated by the quadrant of the angle. So you have to know what quadrant the half angle is in, so that will determine whether or not the answer is plus or minus, not the fact that it's a radical and you get both. You have to look at the quadrant. And then for tangent, you see 1 minus cosine theta over sine theta, or sine theta over 1 plus cosine theta. Either one of those. Personally, I like to use plus, but then you're adding in a denominator and you've got all kinds of things can happen there. So whatever one you're comfortable with, that's fine. I'm going to do a couple examples here so you can see how to use them, and hopefully they will help. All right, the first example. Given cosine theta equals -3/5, and pi is less than theta, less than 3 pi over 2, find sine of theta over 2, cosine of theta over 2, and tangent of theta over 2. Once again, like we did with double angles, we have to draw our triangle. We're going to have to do some right triangle trig to find our cosine, sine, and tangent. Okay? Now we are in quadrant 3, so I will draw down here, and again, right triangle trig. Cosine is adjacent, here's your angle, adjacent over hypotenuse. And then we do some right triangle trig, -3 squared. I'm just going to put the, that's the opposite sign, plus opposite squared equals 5 squared. So 9 plus, again, I'm going to go back to b squared. You guys know what I'm talking about, is 25. Subtract your 9. B squared is 16, so b equals 4. So that's 4 right there. All right, so if we go through knowing that that's our triangle, we can come up with our sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine theta we were given, and tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent, 4 over -3. Okay? Actually don't even need tangent for the formulas, but there it is. Now we'll start with sine of theta over 2, and since we are in the second quadrant, okay, you're going to get 1 minus cosine theta over 2, which is 1 minus -3/5 over 2, and that's all under the radical. Okay, same change. 1 plus 3/5 gives you 8/5 over 2. That's under the radical. I'm going to come down here to finish it out. Okay, 8/5 divided by 2 is radical 4/5, which gives you 2 over radical 5. Rationalizing your denominator, multiplying both of these by radical 5 gives you 2 radical 5 over 5. That is your exact value. Okay, now let's do cosine theta over 2. Okay, and because you are in the third quadrant, so if you divide by 2, that's going to end up putting you in the second quadrant. Okay, so cosine is going to be -1 plus cosine theta over 2. Okay, so we get, under the radical, 1 plus a -3/5 over 2, okay, which is the negative 2/5 divided by 2. If I come down here, it ends up being square root of 1/5, negative 1 over radical 5. Rationalize the denominator, negative radical 5 over 5. Okay, you're just simplifying denominators at that point. Very easy, you're just plugging numbers in. Okay, so for tangent of theta over 2, I'm going to use 1 minus cosine theta over sine theta. I think that's a good one. So we will do 1 minus negative 3/5 over negative 4. Yes, negative 4/5, because our sine is in the third quadrant. Our angle is in the third quadrant, so our sine is negative. Same change, and you're going to get 8/5 over negative 4/5, and that's going to reduce, just put it right in your calculator, to negative 2. And there you go. Okay, that's a very straightforward explanation, use of those two. Okay, now what I'm going to do is give you another one that's not so straightforward, but it's not that difficult to find. Use the half angle formulas to find the exact value of cosine pi over 2, or check that, pi over 12. So we know that the cosine of pi over 12 can be considered the cosine of pi over 6 divided by 2, which makes it cosine 1/2 pi over 6. Okay? That puts us in the first quadrant, so cosine is going to be positive. So I'm going to come down here, and using my cosine formula, positive 1 minus, check that, 1 plus cosine theta over 2. Now we know the cosine of pi over 6 is radical 3 over 2. So it's 1 plus radical 3 over 2 over 2. Use a pencil that's a little sharper, a little more clear for you guys. So 1, we're going to make 2 over 2 so that I can add that. 2 plus radical 3 over 2. I'm just adding that fraction over 2, and we're still under the radical. Okay, now I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1 over 2 to get rid of that denominator, and I end up with 2 plus radical 3 over 4, all of that in the radical. Now it looks weird because you end up with a double radical, but that often happens. Don't worry about it. That is a perfectly acceptable answer at this level of mathematics. I hope this was helpful for you. Work on the practice problems in the book, and again, I'm hoping to see you guys soon. These videos are nice, but I miss all your smiling bright faces. All right, take care. Have a good week, and hopefully April will be different.